So before we start, so I'll be talking a little bit about stress management. Of course, if you just Google stress management, if you go to YouTube, you'll find thousands of lectures. So why am I again talking about this? So I'm going to present it in a slightly different way. So what I'll be covering is three things. So what is stress? Can you all see from the back? So what is stress? How to deal with stress? And typically, stress has been thought to be a bad thing. So I'm going to ask the question, is stress actually bad? Is it actually bad? Okay. So these are the things that I'll be addressing. So as I was saying, what this talk is not about, it's not a motivational talk, it's not a mindfulness talk, it's not a talk on stress-free life. Okay. And then I'll present both aspects of stress, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, the aspects of stress. Stress can be good also, stress can be bad also, stress can be ugly also. And last thing is, so this hopefully will help you on your individual journeys, and I'll share some wisdom that I've heard from the scriptures, Shastra, from my gurus and other experts in this field. So I've kind of I've read a lot of articles, heard a lot of talks, and I'll kind of summarize everything for you in a nutshell. Hopefully we'll finish by 8:15 or so. So before I start, I just want to dedicate and take the blessings of my gurus. I told you that I got a lot of wisdom from them. And a guru who enlightened, a guide who encouraged, and a god brother who entertained, endeared, and endured. So I just wanted to mention them. So the first thing is, so before we start, so what is stress? Anybody? I'll just make it interactive so it's fun. So what do you think is stress? Now, all of you are going through stress in one way or the other. So anyone can tell me, what do you think is stress?
Stress is a feeling which makes us somewhat like, for example, if I have a deadline to do an assignment, then there is a feeling coming in my mind. The deadline is 12 and it's 8 and I have to do it as soon as possible. That feeling I can say it's a kind of stress.
Okay, very nice. Thank you, Naveen. Anyone else?
Stress is, I see it as a signal from the brain, where, for example, I have a deadline and I have to apply to like 15 internships, and I have to do other things like right now figuring out how to file for my taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of these in your mind, your brain is sending a signal, and it can trigger you to do one of two things: either follow the deadlines or just like completely shut down and do something else.
Wonderful. Yeah, so a lot of deadlines are coming. Both of you, I think, kind of address that. And then, so because those deadlines are coming, you just have to address them, you have to figure things out, and that can add stress. Anyone else?
A trigger or a pressure which could derail your logical thinking at times.
A pressure that could trigger your logical thinking sometimes. Yeah. One more, and then we'll discuss the solution. Anyone else? Yes?
Something that forces us out of our comfort zone. Anything that forces us out of our comfort zone tends to bring stress.
Okay.
It's not what is stress, I guess, but more of what causes stress.
Okay. So I'll do an experiment to illustrate this. So Vishal, can you give me the balloons? So I have a lot of pins here. Like these are push pins. I pushed it on, taken a cardboard and pushed it. And so it's just like push pins. Okay. So now I'm going to show you something which will hopefully help you understand by illustration. I'll take one of these. I'll take this one. Okay, I've taken one pin. Okay. Now, what do you think will happen if I get the pin and the balloon? It will burst, right? So let's see. Immediately. I didn't have to do anything. I just touched it and it burst. Now I'm going to take another one. So there's lots of push pins here. There's lots of push pins here, okay? I'm going to take this, okay? And I'm going to, what do you think will happen now? It will burst immediately? Okay, let's see. So I'm going to, sorry?
The surface area, sir.
Okay, so this is related to this topic today, but yeah, surface area you're saying. So I'm going to start pressing, And you see, I'm pressing hard. It's not.
Wow.
It's just not. It's just. I'm really pressing it. Okay, I'm really pressing it. Oops. I'm really pressing it. Go. Give me one more. Sorry. But I had to really press it.
But it did take more time.
Yeah, it did
So,
take more time.
can someone come here and see? I'll tell you how difficult it is to. Maybe Jitendra Prabhu. So now just press it. See?
Flat. It
Yeah.
has to be flat.
After you press it a lot.
Yeah.
It has to be flat. Keep
Yeah.
it on the
Okay, one more, last one.
Keep it on the table.
Like this or on the
Oh,
table,
yeah,
like
yeah.
this. Okay.
It has to be flat and this has to be flat too.
This has to be flat.
More surface area.
More
Okay.
surface area.
So anyway, the point is that so why did this happen? Why did this happen?
The scientific reason behind it, more the
Okay,
surface
scientific
area, less
reason.
the pressure.
More the surface area, less the pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? One pin, it was very easy, and I'm going to give some analogies about our mind and thoughts and things like that. So one pin, I could just easily even touch it, it would burst. But so many pins together, it was very difficult. I had to really press it. Why? Okay, it is science, but it's also teaching us something.
Maybe a lot of stress makes you more, what do I say, stronger, maybe.
A lot of stress makes you stronger. That's one way to look at it. Okay, Prashant, anything? Not the scientific. I don't want you to talk about. See, basically, the science behind this is if I use my finger and poke someone, right, it will cause them pain. They'll say, "Ouch!" Right? If I use the same thing but I push like this, it won't cause so much pain. Okay, the surface area. Some of you mentioned. Yes, that is correct. So it will not cause so much pain. Okay.
Is it like if you focus on one particular problem and you think that is a problem that causes you stress?
Wonderful. Yeah.
You look at everything as there's so many problems. You just look at it like from the broader perspective.
Mhm.
You don't feel it like as intense as one particular problem.
Yes. Yes. Good. That's something where I was leading to. Anyone else? Any other thoughts on this experiment? We didn't do it properly, but if you do it properly, I've seen that if you really press it, even if you press it completely, like you have to use a lot of pressure, only then it will like burst. So,
Maybe the balloon itself is like stress, and I'm looking at it from an alternative
yes,
perspective.
yes.
So each pin is a problem. So
Mhm.
or a task that we have to finish.
Mhm.
So if we finish one task at a time,
Mhm.
then we don't feel that stressed. But if we look at it, that so many tasks are there at the same time,
Mhm.
then we feel a bit more stressed and we feel a bit more pressure.
Okay, nice. Okay, so wonderful. So now let's proceed. So stress and worry are related. So the first thing I want to talk about is right from childhood till we get old, we always keep worrying. We always keep worrying. So here there are two spectrums. In the entire spectrum, the young boy, he wants time to go fast. Okay, and the same time, the old guy is actually holding time. You see, and both are worrying. Why? One person, if you ask any small child, what do you want? Have you had this experience? They'll say, I want to grow up.
Yes.
I want to become free. I want to get liberated. I want to enjoy things of life. And if you ask any old dying man, he'll say, I just wish I had some more time. I just wish I had some more time. So constantly, from birth till death, this worry is a constant factor. Okay, that's one thing. And the second thing that we always do is very interesting. Right from the time a child is born, in fact, as soon as a child is born and you go and see the child, they'll ask you, does my child look like the father or the mother? Have you seen that? Always. Okay, father or the mother, father or the mother. Right from childhood, we are taught to compare. So sometimes when somebody asks me that question, the child is just like a child. Just treat him like a child. Don't compare right from childhood. Father or mother, don't compare. Because you're already starting to compare right from childhood. So it is said that there are 3 C's to hell: compare, complain, and criticize. So these 3 things can take one to hell. So let's not start like a childhood's life by comparing. This is the first thing. So coming back to worry, coming back to stress, I'd like to say that this world is like www.com. Because as a child, when we are born, when we start going to school, we are always told, write. Right? You have to keep writing exams all the time. Write. Okay, so that's www.com. As you grow a little older, we are told you have to work.com. Work.com. Right? Always work. Then you start questioning, okay, why should I work? Because wealth.com. Right? Again, you want money, that's why you work. And then that leads to worry.com. Right? Good, Vishal. Worry.com. So again, on www. Then, okay, now you are working, you have wealth, and you're worrying. What comes next? Wine.com. Right? You have to start drinking now because you're worrying so much, you have to start drinking. And then, is that the end? No. But then you start worrying, you start whining, and then you start beeping. Beep.com. So this, in essence, is our life. And through each of these things, even though I put worry here, we are always worrying. Whether you're in school, writing, whether you're working, whether you're making money, whether you're drinking, you're always worrying. So worry is a very constant factor throughout our life. Do you all agree? To a certain extent? Yeah? So one thing is that, of course, all of you are also worrying right now because your future is uncertain. You don't know where you'll be working, what internship you'll get, when will you graduate, what about my educational loans. As Vishal, he created the flyer so wonderfully. So this worry is always there. So one example that I want to give, a personal example. How many of you are from South India? Like a place near Karnataka? Okay. Do you know Bannerghatta? So Bannerghatta, there's a bird sanctuary. How many of you have been there? Oh no, wow, 4 of you, okay. So I used to go there every year. One particular year, and then in that bird sanctuary what happens is they put you on a boat, then they take you around, and you'll see all kinds of beautiful birds, right? So one day, there was a hole in the boat. Again, please remember the balloon example while I'm saying this. There was a hole in the boat. And then with that hole in the boat, what started to happen was, the water started to come in. And then the boatman asked, how many of you know swimming? None of us knew swimming, actually. So he said the only solution is take this bucket and just start throwing the water away. Okay? And this is how we were. Okay? So we were taking this bucket and with all complete focus, just like throwing the water. Somehow we made it alive. So the point is, we are in an exact similar situation. So this ocean that we are surrounded with is full of difficulties. But if we have a hole in our mind and that comes in, that transforms into worry. Difficulties are there, challenges are there, but the moment they start coming in and then you start dwelling on it. Of course, worrying is not bad initially, but you start thinking about it a lot, and then immediately it becomes worry. So you might say, that's not bad. Of course, I need to worry to solve a problem. But the point that I'm making is, don't obsess over it, don't dwell on it too much. Then what can happen is, it becomes worry. So the solution, what is the solution? You plug that hole. So let the difficulties come, let the challenges come, you face it, but don't let it enter and take over your consciousness so that you start just worrying about it. Okay? So difficulties are inevitable, but worrying is optional. We don't have to worry. Okay? Now, what happens if one thought of worry enters your mind? What tends to happen is it's like carrying a brick. Let's say, or just carrying this water bottle. Oh, this is so easy, so light. I'm just carrying it now, right? Now, if I hold this for a minute, what's going to happen? The weight is the same. The weight of this is the same, but it will start feeling a lot heavier. If I hold it for 10 minutes, it will feel even more heavier. If I hold it for 1 hour, it will feel like I'm holding that huge AC or something, right? It's the same weight. Similarly, our thoughts are like that. Once the thought enters, if you hold on to it and you just keep on worrying about it, then it comes to a point where it becomes so heavy, becomes so burdensome. And that is when we have to just throw out that worry away. Does that make sense? Does the analogy make sense? So this is about the break. And what is interesting is, another characteristic of worrying is that it gives a small thing a big shadow. So the real problems in our life can actually be very small, but the imaginary problems that a worry creates, it just starts making you think that this problem is way, way more difficult than what I'm facing. Like it'll start making you think that this is way more difficult. This problem that I'm getting is way more difficult than it actually is. So the real problem is actually very small, but you think about it so much that it actually becomes a big shadow. So the shadow is not real. Shadow is not real. Shadow is artificial. But still, you start imagining and start thinking that it's a huge thing. Now, when I hear students come and tell me, I'm looking for internship, oh, it's so stressful. For me, it's not that, because I know that eventually all of you will get a good job. In CS, I've been talking to the professors sometimes, at NYU especially, 100%, everyone gets a job. Everyone gets and not only just an ordinary job, you get a good job. And the statistic says that 85% of you will repay all your education loans in 1 year, right? So that's huge. So then I can say, so what? Why are you worrying so much? For me, it's not a big thing, like you will eventually get it. And even for you, you'll all eventually get it. But the fact that you're just worrying about it so much can sometimes cause stress, undue stress. Okay. So another thing, some statistics about worry is that, so this has been done by several people, and this is a fact. So 60% of the things we worry about never take place. Have you had this experience? 60% of the things that we worry about never take place. 15% of the things we worry about have already taken place. Okay, we worry about things that have already happened. What is the point? If it's never going to happen, if it has already happened, so that's almost 75% of our worries. 17% of the things we worry about are people who we can never change. This is also interesting. I'll talk about this in more detail, about relationships and people who we can never change. So 17% of the things we worry about are people who can never change. So finally, the last 8% are the things we worry about which are real problems. Okay, so 92% of the time, the worries that we are actually doing or going through are useless. So it's just actually that 8%, just that 8% that is important. 92% of our worries are pretty much useless. So just a couple of lines about satisfaction in life. 3 lines. The first thing is, people spend money that they don't have. People spend money that they don't have. How? Credit cards, loans, right? That's the money that they don't have, but they spend it. To buy things that they don't need. Right? And what is the last line? I like this. To impress people that they don't like or know. Right? So I felt that this is like one way, we all keep doing this all the time, and we start thinking that this is it. We spend money that we don't have to buy things that we don't need, to impress people that we don't like or we don't even know. On Facebook, we're just impressing people that we don't even know. Right? And then we feel some satisfaction, but also through these 3 things, we worry a lot. Worry a lot. And one analogy that I put here is it's like water. Water is also never satisfied. Water in the river or the ocean is never satisfied. What does it do? It becomes clouds, thinking that, okay, if I'm a cloud, maybe I'll be happy. Then it goes, becomes a cloud, then it's not happy there also. It comes down as rain, even then it's not happy. Then it goes to a mountain, and then it comes down as a river, even then it's not happy, and goes back into the ocean again. So if you look at this cycle, and that's typically what we are also going through, right? You think that, okay, I should do something else, 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 but then you come back to square one. So just be satisfied with what you have. So one funny example I just want to mention here. So there was a boy who wanted to play a prank in school. So he took 3 sheep to school, and then after school hours, he left the 3 sheep in the school, thinking that tomorrow I need a holiday. Okay. But he was very smart. What he did was, he wrote 1 on one sheep, 2 on the second sheep, and on the third sheep, he wrote 4. Okay. He wrote 4. Then what happened? The cleaners came, because the next day morning the cleaners came to clean, right? They found a lot of these wool and dirty, the stool of sheep and stuff. So they started cleaning. They found these 3 things. Then they found that there's 1, there's 2, there's 4. Then they started thinking, where is the third one? And they started searching, and then they declared a holiday. Because 1 sheep is missing, you have to find that sheep. So until we find it, there's no school. So the prank actually worked. Now, what is the lesson here? Similarly, in our lives also, we have 1, 2, 4, but we are running behind the 3, which doesn't exist. Right? We have everything that we need. God has given us everything that we need in terms of 1, 2, and 4. But still we are running behind the 3. Where is the 3? Where is the 3? Where is the 3? We are not satisfied. So that is the same thing about the water, about the sheep, and so on. So now, coming to the definition of stress. So if you look at this word cloud, so stress, of course, there are so many things. I looked at some things. So work is stressful, pressure, sadness, headache, sadness, depression. So all these words are associated with stress. Okay. So from a physical sense, let's say this table, or we looked at the balloon, right? So stress is something which can bend or break, right? So what is stress exactly? So the definition of stress is that exposure to something which is beyond one's capacity to sustain. So exposure to something which is beyond one's capacity to sustain. Okay. Now this can be good or this can be bad. I'm not going to, as I mentioned before, I'm not going to tell you that stress is always bad. But initially we start thinking that this is actually bad. Okay. So one thing that many students always come and tell me is that I'm feeling stressed because I have too many things to do. Right? So in that sense, stress is an emotion, like how Naveen said. It's a feeling, it's an emotion. I'm feeling stressed as I have too many things to do. So when you start feeling stressed, what is exactly happening is that it's originating in the mind. Right? So always stress originates in the mind. And of course, you can have some physical effects, physical symptoms because of that, like heart palpitations, blood pressure increase, and so on. So, but those are secondary effects. So where does it originate? It originates in the mind. But typically what happens now is that we treat the secondary effects with medications. So don't medicate away stress. The thinking that if I just solve these symptoms, my stress will go away. Through chemicals, people have read several articles on this. You can't use chemicals to solve a human problem. You can't medicate away stress. Okay? So that is one modern definition of stress. So let's go to our scriptures. What does our scriptures say about stress? So this is a definition from the Niti Shastra. So if you look at this, so Chitta Chinta Samahi Yukta Bindu Matra Visheshataha. So this word Chitta and Chinta, if you look at this in Hindi, you may not, but there's just one, there's just one dot. Bindu Matra means just one dot is the differentiation between Chitta and Chinta. What is Chitta? Chitta is the funeral pyre, and Chinta is worry or stress. And there's just one dot difference, right? Bindu Matra Visheshataha. Sajivam dahate chinta, nirjivam dahate chitta. So what this is saying is, when we die, go ahead.
We lay on the deathbed, and when we are alive, we are just.
Yes. So this chitta is just once. The funeral pyre just once burns you after you die. But chinta is burning you throughout your life. Sajivam dahate chinta, nirjivam dahate chitta. Chitta burns you only once, but this chinta keeps burning you throughout your life. So this is the definition from Niti Shastra. So it is said that you must never worry too much while you are here. Let chitta take it, let it burn you once, but throughout your life, don't let chinta keep burning you. Okay? So I want to spend more time today talking about the solutions, because definitions are always there, statistics are always there. So I'll talk about solutions, and the way I'll do it is I'll give some examples, I'll give some verses from the Shastra, and I'll tell some stories just to not make it too boring. Okay. So what are the sources of stress?
Worry.
Overthinking. Anything else?
Procrastination.
Procrastination, that was my first point. Yeah, thank you. Procrastination. Anything else? Just think out of the box. Don't just think in terms of work and this and that. What are the causes of stress? Huh? Expectations. Yes, that is also there.
Loss of control.
Loss of control. Yes, that is also there. Yes. And the last one, something that we ourselves do to ourselves. So it is said from our scriptures that the sources of stress are 4. And I put 4 D's here so you can actually remember easily. The first one, as you said, what did you say, Nisha?
Procrastination.
Procrastination. So that comes in disorganization. Okay. The second source of stress is our disposition, our character itself. Sometimes because of our character itself, and we start expecting, as someone mentioned, that can cause stress. And this is a huge thing. We'll come to that later. The third one is, even though we don't want stress, outside effects cause stress. One example anybody can think of destiny causing stress?
Ukraine.
Huh?
Ukraine right now.
Ukraine right now, they didn't do anything. They didn't cause the problem, but it's happening to them. But in our own lives, anything that can happen? Stress?
Problems.
Health problems, you can say, you can argue that you didn't take care of your health, whatever, but certain things that you didn't do anything wrong with this.
I mean, like, by health problem, I mean, let's just say it's a genetical issue, like, I'm just giving an example, say a cardiac arrest is a genetic.
Cardiac arrest, okay.
So,
Yeah. What about loss of a family member? What about financial things? I mean, these are things, suddenly something, your business went away, you lost your job, something like this happened, and that is destiny. Okay, that's the third one. So I'll talk about solutions of how to deal with all of them. And the last one is interesting also. Stress can happen because of our own decisions. Sometimes, and I'll give some more examples later, we decide to do something and that can cause stress. Based on our decision itself, some stress can come. So let's start one at a time. So the first one is stress due to disorganization or too much organization. So this is what I want. I don't want to just present one aspect. I want to present both aspects. Okay. So this is one thing that I want to do. If you go to any seminar, they'll just present that stress is bad, disorganization is bad, but nobody talks about the other aspect of too much organization. How can that be bad also? Okay, that can also cause stress. So now let's start with one example here. So this is a person who's moving out, and he's trying to pack everything in the house in one suitcase. I think all of you, before coming to US, I think you tried to pack as much as you could in your suitcases, right? Then just put this in, right? So what is the lesson here? We have 24 hours in a day. We can't put a lot of things in a day. If we do that, it will cause stress. It's very obvious. So what should we do? What should we do?
Put the right amount of things.
Put the right amount of things, which means, in another word,
Use more things.
use more?
Bags.
More bags. We can't, right? 24 hours only. Change the suitcase.
Do what, like, take whatever is the most required.
Yes. Another word for that is prioritize. Prioritize means planning. Now, if someone does not prioritize, what happens? If someone does not prioritize, then there are people like this who don't prioritize. What they do is, whenever a difficulty comes, they'll tackle it. Whenever fires come, they'll put them off. That's what they do. Whenever difficulties come, I solve it. Difficulties come, I solve it. This is good. So lack of prioritization leads to dealing with urgent issues, and that causes stress. So lack of prioritization is also bad. Okay. So plans may not work, but planning always works. Okay. I'll talk more about this. I'll just show you. I'll come back to the previous slide. But so stress due to disorganization. Okay. So this is like a pendulum. I'll show you both extremes and I'll tell you the problems. The first thing is, if you organize your life too much, that every minute of my day I'm going to do this whole day, you're completely, planned. You've made plans for the entire day, organized it to the core. So that is called micro-planning your life. And that, it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, 16:14, Ishvaroham aham bhogi. What this means is, you're the controller, you're the enjoyer. That's it. I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. I'm just going to micro-plan my whole life, and every single thing I'm going to follow. That is mode of passion. Okay? So that is called attached involvement. You're completely obsessed with that idea. I have to do this, this is my thing, and this is it. Will that work?
Not always.
What happens, because you've planned every minute of your day, something else comes and you're not able to do certain things. What happens?
Everything else gets ignored in your
Everything else gets ignored, stress increases because now you have so many things planned, micro-planned your whole day, like everything is getting affected and every minute you're feeling more and more stress. Have you had this experience? Yes? Now let's take the other extreme, okay? The other extreme is, when these things don't work, I'm going to abandon everything, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to plan anything, and I'm going to get completely disinvolved. This, the Bhagavad Gita says, is mode of ignorance. So typically, most of us oscillate between these two. We micro-plan, we let go of our plans. We micro-plan, we let go of our plans. Micro-plan, let go of our plans. Do you all agree?
Yeah.
So what is the right solution? What is the solution? The solution is, what is mode of goodness? So there are three modes. This is passion. Okay, anybody guess what should we do?
Just stay in the center.
Stay in the center. What does that mean practically?
Prioritize your tasks and then make space for them while allowing space for other things to be done.
Yes. It's a complicated answer, but I'm looking for something simpler. So yes, in one sense, what you're saying is right. So one thing that we should do is that, I don't know if you can all see this, but so plans may not work, but planning always works. So planning, there's a subtle difference between plans and planning. Okay. So typically how I start my day is, I have a notebook and then I plan my day, right? I don't plan, I start planning my day. So I write down that these are the things that I have to do. But I don't say that every minute I have to do what I have to do. Okay? So I plan my day, and so it gives me a sense of direction. Okay, so the difference between direction and destination. So plans means destination, planning means it gives you a sense of direction. Right? So this is actually helpful, and this is said to be in the mode of goodness because it helps you adjust and adapt a little bit. It gives you the room to adjust and adapt. But if you don't do this, and if you micro-plan your life, then there is no room for adjusting. Like in a traffic jam, if you have to go around left, and you can go around. That is called mode of goodness. But if you say you have to do it this way, then destiny can cripple us and it can cause more stress. Does that resonate with all of you? So this is the first problem is stress due to disorganization, and the solution is to planning. The solution is planning, but not plans. Okay? Because planning gives you a sense of direction, and planning helps you adjust and adapt. The next one is an important one, stress due to disposition. And some of you mentioned this about relationships, right? So stress due to disposition. What is disposition?
Your attitude
your attitude, your character, your nature, your needs, your capacity, all of these things come under disposition. So this is interesting because most relationships, everything, they cause stress because of this important factor, okay, which I'm going to really elaborate. So the first thing is that we have to understand is that different people can cope with different amounts of workload. So what is, let's say I can hold 20 kgs, someone else can hold 5 kgs, but that person has reached the capacity and I have not reached my capacity. So we can't compare, it's not apples to apples. So each one of us is different. Each one of us has a different capacity, different nature and different need. And we have to understand this. The problem that happens in relationships is when we start expecting someone else to do something that we are doing, or we want to become like someone that we are not capable of. Right? So some people like to do a lot. The whole day they're doing a lot. So my wife is here, and actually just yesterday we were talking. So her nature is to just do a lot. Like whole day she just has to keep doing things, because she has the capacity, she has the nature, and she has the need. Now when I ask her, are you stressed? She says no. Then what causes her stress?
Not doing work.
Yes. The moment she sits idle, the moment she sits, when I tell her to calm down and sit, because for me, I'm exactly the opposite. I need to be calm, I'm more reflective and like that kind of person. So I tell her, why don't you just sit and relax a little bit? She sits and, I can't, I have to do something, I'm wasting. Yes.
How can I be so workaholic?
How can you be so workaholic?
Yeah, from the statement that you said about your wife is really inspiring. So, just want, because to be honest,
You want to be like that?
Yeah, I am a lazy person,
Uh-huh.
and I want to get an improvement because.
So I'm not talking about laziness here. I'm talking about the capacity. By the way, after this discussion, you can sit next to her. So don't sit next to me. You become more lazy. So,
I second that.
you can all sit around her and get some tips. But if you are already stressed out, you want to just relax and let them sit next to me, I'll give you some tips. So the point is, so lessened activity causes stress for such people. Okay? If they don't do anything, the mind starts telling them, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing? So that causes stress for them. Now other extremes, people like me, right? So some people, they like a more peaceful, reflective type. I just like to sit. If you just put me in a room, give me a book, I just sit. Even if you don't give me a book, that's okay. I just sit. I just reflective, peaceful type. So, but for people like me, if you ask me to do a lot of things, that causes stress. Right? So heightened activity causes stress for me, and that comes from the body. In the first case, it comes from the mind. So we can't have a one solution fit all here. That's the point I'm saying. We have to understand our disposition. We have to understand who we are. Then we can identify what is causing stress and how I should lessen it. Now,
I just had a doubt. This is all based on the ego, right?
it's our natures actually, Akshay. It also comes down to our natures. And that is coming through our past karma and things like that. It's not, so ego, so what do you mean?
It's the current
It's the current me, yeah, in one sense. You're associating with your ego and you're thinking, yeah. Okay. So now again, just to, one way that it can cause stress is what I told you. Another way is, like how exactly what Naveen asked, why can't you be like me? So this guy who works a lot is asking, why can't you be like me? And the other guy who doesn't work a lot, so this guy is working all the time, so he's saying, why can't you be like me? Why don't you work? Why are you just sitting and being idle? The other person says, why can't you be like me? Why can't you just sit, be peaceful? And this causes like a huge conflict between the two. I don't know if you have experienced this, but this happens quite a bit. None of you are married, so sorry. But anyway, so the next thing is, so that is one thing that can cause stress. The other thing is, like what Naveen said, I want to be like you. Now, you don't have the capacity, you don't have the nature, and you don't have the need, but you still want to be like the other person. Okay, I want to be like her. Then if I start doing what my wife does in one day, I'll be completely stressed and I'll be down, for like a week or so. So it'll never work. But I can't. I realize I cannot be like you. I cannot just sit idle. This person is saying I cannot sit idle. And this person, I cannot do what you're doing. Right? So it's not possible. So then eventually, both come to a nice agreement saying that let me be me and let you be you. God has made you to be you and made me to be me. Let me become a better version of myself. That is the goal here. Okay? That is the goal. Let me become a better version of myself, not try to become someone else. The moment we start thinking that I should become like someone else, that adds stress. Any examples anybody wants to share? Is it all making sense, Vishal?
I think I am both people. So I am stressed because I am not doing anything, and hence I take up a lot of work, and then that is very stressful, and hence I take a break. And when I take a break, then I am stressed that I'm not doing anything.
Yes.
So I can't.
Remember the pendulum that I showed you?
Yeah.
How we oscillate from one to the other, one to the other. That's typically how most of us are. We move from passion to ignorance. Passion to ignorance. That's what you're saying. But we have to come to the mode of goodness. And I'll give you some tips on how to come to that center thing, the center line. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Nirja.
My mom is one kind. I don't know. She always works. Like I've never seen her idle.
Mm-hmm.
But then most of the time, her natural disposition is that she's like very zen. She's very calm.
Okay.
Like if things go wrong, it doesn't affect her as much. But she's always doing something or the other. Like she will be
Okay.
working, and she somehow managed being like a working person and then
Yes.
taking care of me
Yes.
and then taking care of my dad,
Yes.
and it didn't stress her out that much.
So that's a wonderful point that you're making. So one thing that can stress you a lot is attached involvement. Attached involvement where you just obsess over the results, that can stress you. The other extreme is disinvolvement. Okay, that's ignorance. But what we are talking, the example of your mother, is that there is detached involvement. Okay, she's involved, she's doing a lot of things, but she's detached in one sense. That is why when difficulties come, she's able to take it. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you? So that's the thing. Okay. So the shoe that fits one leg bites another leg. What this means is that just because somebody else is doing it, we cannot do it. Now they don't have, so the worst category is, this is the worst category, okay? So some people don't have the capacity, but they still have the need to become someone else. Okay? They don't have the capacity, but they want to become someone else. So, and the worst part is they don't get it, that they haven't got it. They haven't got the skills, and they just don't get it. They just want to do it. So the lesson ultimately in this particular thing is that we have to recognize our own psychological natures and give others their space. We have to give others their space, because we can't expect people to become like us, or we can't become like someone else. That is the point. So then you might say, what about inspiration? Should we not get inspired?
Exactly.
Right? That's a question that comes, right? So here's the thing. Inspiration is one thing, but imitation is a completely different thing. You should definitely get inspired, and you should individualize it in your life based on your nature. You understand? But if you start imitating, it will never work. That will cause stress. So how do we understand what our disposition is?
Okay, just example. So so Kobe Bryant is like my hero type. So
Yes.
his way of working is like working 2 times harder than someone else.
Okay.
It's not something I can do. So you're saying that
You can still get inspired by him and slowly start implementing things that suit your nature. You can't jump like Kobe Bryant and like do those things, or you can't work like him. But get inspiration and move to the center. Move to the center. That's the point. Next thing. So now my question is, So how do we understand our disposition? That's a natural question, right? I'm talking about disposition so much. So how do we understand unless your spouse comes and tells you that you're working so much or you're not working, how do you yourself understand your disposition? How do you understand? Anybody? Now it's going to go more subtle because it's not easy. Yes?
Journaling?
Journaling, okay. Yes.
Maybe there's this activity that I really want to do, there's this person I really want to be, and I try hard, I give
Mm.
it my all,
Mm.
but I'm still not able to reach that, then maybe I'm not meant to be that. So it's kind of recognizing.
Reasoning.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Yes.
And I actually do believe in the feedback of people.
You believe in the feedback of
Yeah,
people.
because I mean the ones who care about you. Because
Yes.
I am very predisposed to be defensive, and it took my friends to make me try to change that and even come to terms with it.
Yes.
I do
Yes.
feel that.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
What motivates you? What drives you?
What motivates you? What drives you? Will tell you who you are. You're saying? Okay.
Reasoning,
Reasoning. What do you mean?
like why is this thing like this in my life? So once you understand that, you'll understand, okay, this is my like advantage, and this is, I mean, these are my qualities, and these don't work out for me.
Mm.
So you start reasoning things in your life, and you start
Okay.
get to know like, okay,
Okay.
this works for me.
Okay. So, one more? Anybody else? How do we understand our disposition?
Contemplation.
Contemplation, yes. Yes, we're coming to that slowly. Yes. Anyone else? How do we understand our nature? How do we understand our capacity? How do we understand our needs?
Introspect what you
It's
have
correct.
done earlier and
Sorry?
introspect what you have done earlier, then like analyze, maybe know how much you're
Introspect what we have
capable
done
of.
earlier. Yes.
Know how
So
much
contemplation, introspection. Yes.
Trying out like different, exploring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Exploration.
Yeah.
But none of you mentioned a spiritual reason. So the solution, so all of these things, right, that we talked about is looking outward. We're looking outward. We're looking at other people, we're looking at other things, we're looking for feedback, these things. But let us look inward. Introspection, contemplation, journaling. These are things that take you inward, and that comes through spiritual practices. So what do I mean by spiritual practices? So spiritual practice gives you what is called the Antarjyoti, or it gives you a light from within, and it actually helps you understand or learn who you are. In the ultimate sense, you'll understand that you're the soul or the Atma, but it also tells you what your nature is, what your disposition is. And Krishna warns in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna warns in a wonderful way in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 35th verse. You know the verse, Prabhu?
Shreya Swadharma.
Yes, beautiful. Can you say?
I mean, I don't know it completely, but
Yeah.
Shreya Swadharma Viviguna Paradharmat Svanushtita.
Yes. So what this verse is saying is, it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than others' duties perfectly. So Krishna is telling us, understand your nature and do your nature. And the next line is even more interesting. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is dangerous. Krishna is saying that if you try to imitate someone else, which is against your nature, it is dangerous because it starts with stress and it can actually pull you down very, very quickly. It can pull you down very quickly. Okay? So please understand this. I'll just give you a couple more examples to illustrate this. The first one is do not compare yourself with others. We started off this class by talking about the 3 C's, right? So there is this nice example of the garden fern and the bamboo, right? So the garden fern and bamboo, if you plant them both next to one another and then you start watering them, the garden fern immediately starts growing. Within a week it starts growing. But the bamboo you water for 1 year, nothing happens. Nothing comes out actually, right? And then the second year also you're watering, nothing comes out. The third year also you're watering, nothing comes out. The fern has grown up beautifully. I mean, it's like completely. This is a fern and this is the bamboo tree, right? Then after the third year, in 3 weeks, it just shoots up, the bamboo. So now, can we say which one is better? We can't. Both have their pros and cons. So don't put your character, your disposition down. Each one of us is special. We are meant to do something, and we can identify who we are through spiritual practices. That is the second thing. Okay. And also, what is interesting is, and you can practice this also, there is this thing called the lens principle. Have you heard of this? The lens principle? So, who you are determines what you see. Okay, this first part I just want to spend some time here. Who you are determines what you see. So again, because it's getting too philosophical, I'll give some examples. The first thing is, all of you know the Mahabharata, right? So Dronacharya called his disciples Yudhishthir and Duryodhana. And he told Duryodhana first, go around the village and try to find one person who is better than you. So Duryodhana went, everyone, spoke to hundreds of people in that one day, but he came back very disappointed. He said, I couldn't find even one person who's better than me. Okay. So then Dronacharya calls Yudhishthir, his other student, and he says, can you find one person who is worse than you? So he goes at the same village, he meets the same people, and he comes back also disappointed. And he says, I couldn't find one person worse than me. Right? It's the same people. So one was looking just at the good qualities and one was looking just at the bad qualities of others. And why were they doing that? Because who you are determines what you see. Okay? So that's called the lens principle, and it's so true in our own lives. I'll give you some contemporary examples. Let's say somebody likes to decorate. So Aishwarya, who decorates, so she likes to decorate. So I don't even have to ask her, but if she goes to someone's house, you'll notice the decorations, right? Immediately you'll notice the decorations, what is happening here. Because that's your thing. So who you are determines what you see. But if I go somewhere, I never look at decorations at all. I just completely be blind to those things because that's not me. But my nature, I like to talk to intellectual people. So if I start talking to someone, I just want to see how intelligent they are, how they talk, and things. That is what, because that's who I am. So what I see determines who I am. Does that make sense? It's a very interesting principle. It's called the lens principle. You can observe. I've also seen this, that a person who never steals will never be able to catch a thief. Because he will never even think that someone will steal. It's very subtle, but it's actually very true. Okay? The next one is who you are determines how you see others. Okay, the first one is what you see, and the second one is how you see others. So one more example, one more story. So there was a village, and there was an old man standing at the entrance of the village. Okay, so one person came and he said, how are the people in your village? So he said, where are you coming from? I'm coming from another village. So the old man asks, how are the people in your village? So this person says, they were rude, they were arrogant, they were horrible, that's why I came here. Then he says, how are the people in your village? Exactly like that, the old man says. Exactly like that. So this guy gets frustrated and he leaves. A few minutes later, one more guy comes, and then the same thing happens. He says, how are the people in your village? The old man says, how are the people in your previous village? And then he starts saying that they were really kind, they were compassionate, loving people. And then he says, how are the people in your village? He says, exactly the same. Okay? So the same village, the same old man is giving two answers. Because he has understood this lens principle, which says who you are determines how you see others. Okay? So one quote I want to share before we move to the next reason. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at also change. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at also change. Okay? So the third factor. So what is the first thing that causes stress? Disorganization. The second one?
Disposition.
Disposition. The third one is destiny. This is very interesting, and Krishna gives a very nice, in Bhagavad Gita he gives a very nice solution to this. So there are phases in our lives, dear friends, and you have to be aware of this. Troubles will come. Troubles will be way more than you can handle. Okay, there will be times in your life. You're all in your 20s now, but as you get older, you'll actually start seeing this. And these are problems that we didn't even cause. They just come, they just hit you so badly. It just shakes you up completely. So this can cause stress. This can cause a lot of stress in your life, right? Now you can say, by destiny, these things come up. By destiny, these difficulties come up. And there could be like an accident, or someone loses a job, a betrayal, relationship issues, so many things. They just come and hit you, right? Suddenly, all of a sudden, for no mistake of yours. So Krishna gives a solution here. In Bhagavad Gita, what is the solution when such things happen? He says, the only way to handle such difficulties is, anybody?
Basically give everything to the God, right? Like,
Okay.
everything is because of, not because of it.
That's, yeah, but still, how do you handle it at that time? It's really hit you now, this difficulty. What do you do?
Be detached from the material things.
Be detached from the material. More like
Accept what has
a very
happened.
practical solution. It's a very practical. That's why I like the Bhagavad Gita, because it offers such practical solutions. What is a practical solution?
Accept like what has happened. Let's see the pros and cons of what you can do.
Yes.
What your options are.
Yes. So just accept it. Or in other words, just tolerate them. So Krishna says, when such difficulties hit you, just tolerate them. Okay? Tam stikshasva bharata, in Bhagavad Gita 2:14, Krishna says, when such difficulties come, don't use your emotion to react, because that can hurt you more. But just tolerate. So one example is a leech. How many of you have seen actually a leech? You've seen? Has it
Yeah.
caught you? Yeah. So once the tentacles go into your skin, right, and it really starts sucking your blood, and you can think of this as destiny, and then what do? What is the solution?
Salt water.
Okay, salt. Who said that? Oh, salt water, yes, sorry. Yeah. But let's say there's no salt water nearby. It's like biting you.
Let it. Ultimately, the leech will be satisfied, and when it's satisfied, it will detach itself.
Beautiful. That's the thing, So it's caught you with a strong grip. Now you have two options. You act through your emotions and try to pull it out, right? What happens if you do that? It'll come out with your skin. It'll cause more damage. All you have to do at that point is just tolerate. Just tolerate. These difficulties have come. I just have to tolerate, and it will go away. Okay? You have to have that faith, and that's what Krishna is saying here. You have to have that faith that it will eventually go away. Okay? So that is Tamsadikshasva Bharata. So, and our acharyas have said, Srila Prabhupada, who is one of our acharyas, he mentions this several times. So he says, there is nothing to regret over things that are beyond our control. So when certain things come and hit you, don't regret. There is nothing to regret. Okay? Something you cannot cure, you must endure. Something you cannot cure, you can't cure it. Some things have happened. So you must endure, just tolerate. Just tolerate them. Eventually with time it will go away. It's easier said than done, but you have to start practicing this. You have to start practicing this, and it will really help you when the real difficulties hit you. Okay? So the next thing is, when we let our emotions drive our actions during that time, that can cause greater damage, as we discussed. So what does this toleration do? How does it help? So tolerate means keeping small things small so that you can focus on bigger things at that time. When these difficulties hit you, tolerating keeps the small things small so you can focus on the bigger things. Now, does this mean that you must tolerate everything? Does this mean that you must tolerate everything? Krishna also does another thing here. Now, Krishna does not tell Arjuna that he must tolerate everything. Krishna is telling this to Arjuna, right? In Bhagavad Gita 2:14, he's telling this. Titikshasva Bharata. But Krishna does not say that you must tolerate everything. So what does Krishna tell? So Krishna tells Arjuna to tolerate temporary pleasure and pain, but Krishna does not tell Arjuna that you must tolerate the atrocities caused by Kauravas. So it is not a one size fit all, So you cannot tolerate the atrocities done towards you if they are under your control. So Arjuna could fight. So Krishna did not say that you should tolerate that, because there are certain things in your control and certain things out of your control. The things that are in your control, you should do what you can. The things that are out of your control, just tolerate. That is the point here. So don't take this as say that, I have to tolerate everything, I have to tolerate everything. That's not the point here at all. That's why, again, a complete understanding is necessary. Okay. Now there are some people who get stressed out without understanding this whole concept of destiny itself. Okay. So now what does this mean? There are some people who say, I want to do what I want. I want to do it. What is the Nike slogan? Just do it. Just do it. Just do it, man. Just do it. You can do it. So this can sound very liberating, right? I can do what I want. I want to do what I want. It sounds very liberating. But even though it sounds liberating, it is actually very burdening. Do you know why? Can anybody tell me why it is burdening? I have the freedom. I want to do what I want. I will do it. I will become the best actor. I will become the best sportsman. I'll join Facebook. I'll join Google. I'll become the best coder. What is the problem with this attitude? It's not wrong. I'm not telling that you should stop all ambition and become a monk or something. But I'm just telling you, too much obsession on this can cause issues. What is the reason?
It is outward outlook. You want to be the best among others, so you are comparing yourself with others. You are not realizing what you are and what you are good at.
Okay. Yes. Anything else? Yes.
I think you fixate your happiness on one thing then. So if things don't go your way, it could be very detrimental.
Yes, beautiful. So that is where destiny comes, okay? So now, if things don't go your way, let's say you're a cricketer. How many of you like cricket here? Anybody? Okay. So you're a cricketer. Let's say you like cricket. So now you've practiced a lot, you've played a lot, you're winning a match, and then rain falls. And the match gets abandoned. Or you're playing really well, you get run out by the partner. No mistake of yours. Right? Or there's so many things that can happen like this in life also. You want to do certain things, but destiny cripples us. And just like how you're saying, once destiny cripples us, you'll be completely lost. There are people, film actors, who committed suicide because of a scar on their face. Destiny crippled them, and they didn't know what to do. Completely crippled them. Or there have been cases where people have wanted to become wonderful sportsmen, wonderful athletes, they broke their leg. And that's it. Their whole career is ruined now. That's it, and that's it. It's over. So destiny crippled them, and they don't know what to do. So destiny can cripple us. So it's important for us to go spiritual and understand that there are three things. One is our action, which is our karma. Okay? And then there are two other factors also. There is kala and destiny. All three have to fall in place for you to get the fruit. So karma plus kala plus daiva, which is destiny, all three are required to get the phala or the fruit. If we don't understand this and we think that I just have to do it, if you just think that just your action will get the results, it will never work. There are other factors also. That's my point here. So just having that blanket of destiny will help you not get stressed. That there are other factors beyond your control that are causing this. Now, I'll give you one more example. This is a very nice example. So how many of you have heard of this Nazi camp? This very, very horrible situation. Much, much worse than what is happening in Ukraine right now. But we can relate to Ukraine situation also. So, but there was this one person who was getting tortured by soldiers, and he was seeing people die around him, like hundreds of people die around him, but he was very happy. He was extremely happy, and wherever he went, he would draw a butterfly. Whenever there was extreme stress, difficulty, he would just draw a butterfly. He was drawing butterflies everywhere. He would draw a butterfly on the wall, butterfly on the floor, And then the people who were torturing him, the soldiers who were torturing him, would come and ask him, how are you so peaceful? How are you so calm in all this? The destiny is hitting you, and still how are you so calm? So what he said was, I had this realization when I saw the caterpillar in a cocoon, which was going through so much suffering to just come out. But somehow it had faith that it has to just tolerate the suffering, and when it comes out, it will be completely liberated, like become a butterfly. So how did that happen? So he took this one thing, he took this one realization, and then he said that whenever I'm in stress, I am going to think of this butterfly, and I'm just going to tolerate, because I know that very soon I'm going to come out and become free. And that is exactly what happened in his life also. He came out of the Nazi camp. Many people died, but he survived. He came out and he started giving wonderful talks about this one point, about how to handle destiny. Okay, so that's the third one. The first one was disorganization, second was disposition, the third one was destiny, and the last one, sorry I'm going over, but this is the last one, this 4 more slides, is about decision. So till now, we have looked at stress as a bad thing. We have looked at stress as something that can increase your blood pressure, can cause harm, and so on. But all of us, right from birth till death, we have to make certain decisions. And there are some decisions that we take which we know will increase our stress. Can you give me one example? Some decisions that we take which we know will increase our stress. Procrastination is a decision that we take which will increase our stress. Okay, yeah.
Getting into a high demanding job.
Getting into high demanding job, beautiful. Getting into high demanding job, we know that it's going to be stressful, but still we feel that yes, it's okay. Even if there's stress, it's something that's important in my life. I want to do it. Even if I have stress, I will do it. Okay? Like parenting is one thing. The parents decide that they want to have a child. It's a very stressful process to take care of a child, but there's a higher purpose there. They want to experience love. They want to relish that love. They want to offer love. And because of that, they're willing to go through that stress of taking care of a child. Okay? So parenting is another classic example. And many people avoid this because they don't want to go through that stress. I don't want to become a parent because I don't want to go through that stress. Okay? So what this leads to is that avoiding stress is not the purpose of our life. If there's one thing that you can take home today, I want you to take home this one line, that avoiding stress is not the purpose of our life. Okay? I'm talking about this in a stress management class, but avoiding stress is not the purpose of our life. The purpose of our life is to do something valuable in our lives. And many times, if we do something valuable, even though there is stress, that will give you more satisfaction than not doing it. And so one example is that I just discussed is the purpose is like offering love, relishing love is a purpose for which you can take stress and still be happy. So we are not looking for a stress-free life, we are looking for a purposeful life. So it's so important for each one of us to identify our purpose. So we are not looking for a stress-free life, we are looking for a purposeful life. And the purposeful life could be material or spiritual, but it will be fantastic if that purpose is geared towards something spiritual. Because then everything in this material world will not affect you in a very drastic way. Okay. So again, coming back to the same thing, if you have a spiritual purpose, we develop an internal spiritual foundation. And then what happens is that worry that keeps sapping our energy all the time, that worry gets replaced with something higher. And that worry will become so small that you can easily surpass it. It's actually very practical. It's actually very practical that the worry that keeps sapping your energy, for people who are spiritualists, that worry will become very small because that worry gets replaced with something much more deeper, much more, it gets converted to love, okay? Love towards something higher, okay? So in material life, so things are in my control means you're stress-free. Things that are out of my control means you're stressed. Very simple, right? But when someone starts following a spiritual path, then they will realize that things that are out of my control are actually not out of control. They are in control of God. They're in control of God. And once you have that deep realization, then you will, in fact, the stress will go away. Because you know that the person who's in control is God. And things are not out of control, but things are under God's control. So there is one nice proverb that I always think of. Ye mat kaho khuda se. This is in Hindi, but I'll translate it later. Ye mat kaho khuda se, meri mushkile badi hai. What does that mean? Ye mat kaho khuda se, meri mushkile badi hai. ये मुश्किलों से कह दो कि मेरे खुदा बड़ा है. So don't tell God that your problems are big. Don't tell God that your problems are big. Tell your problems that my God is big. Once you start developing this one attitude, these problems become very tiny. Your worry becomes very tiny. Your stress becomes very tiny. Okay? I hope that helps. And of course, Krishna reiterates the same point that I made in Bhagavad Gita 18:58. He says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. By my grace. So Krishna is assuring that if you just become conscious of me, just know that there is a higher power. If you know that God is there, then you will pass over all the obstacles, all the difficulties, all the stress, all the worries in your life by just being conscious of God. By just being conscious that God is in control. I am not in control, but God is in control. Just that one thing can help you come out of this. Now, having said all this, I'll just end with two quick stories. I promise I won't take more than 10 minutes max. So this, do you know how elephants are trained? So I used to go to Tekdi. Tekdi is in Kerala, where they have a lot of elephants. So there I saw that the way they train elephants is very interesting. Does anybody know?
There was a small prick kind of a thing which they scare them with.
No. So I'm not telling how they're captured. I'm telling how they're trained. So what they, yes.
When an elephant is a baby, they tie it to shackles.
Yes.
And because it's a baby, it doesn't have enough strength to break the shackles.
Yes.
But when it becomes bigger, it still sees that shackles as something that it cannot break, even though it's a bigger elephant and it can easily break the shackles.
Yeah, so that's the whole point. So I'll just quickly elaborate a little bit on what you said. So when the elephant baby is small, they put it around like big shackles, like thick, big shackles, okay? And then put a big pole, a big thick pole, and then they tie the elephant there. The elephant, because it's young, it just tries its best to come out. It tries a lot, but it just can't come out. So it starts training its mind to think that the chain and pole means I can't do anything. Chain and pole means I can't do anything. So as the elephant grows bigger and bigger, the chain gets smaller and smaller. The chain gets smaller and smaller, and the pole also gets smaller and smaller. I've seen this actually. But still, the elephant has this in its mind that chain and pole means I can't do anything. Even though it can easily pull it out. You can just one kick and it'll come out. But because it is trained that chain and pole means I can't do anything, it won't do anything. And I've seen like the big elephants, like really big elephants, have very thin chain. Very thin chain. Very, very thin chain. And a very thin pole. The pole is like this big. So the elephant can easily just walk, pretty much, but it still doesn't. So this is the mental shackle. Sometimes we also think, because this is there, I can't do anything. This is there, I can't do anything. We have to break that shackle. We have to break that shackle in our life. And that is how you can become stress-free. And the last story is one of my favorite. Is all of you know this. So this is when they're in the forest, and who is this? Sita, Ram, Lakshman, right? Mother Sita sees a golden deer. She tells Lord Ram that I want this golden deer. Lord Ram says, okay, I'm going to get that deer for you. He starts chasing behind the deer. But before going, he tells Lakshman, please stay back and protect Sita. Right? He says that, please stay back and protect Sita. So now, he stays back, and then he's so on one side, Sita is concerned, but Lakshman is confident. Sita is concerned about Lord Ram, and Lakshman is confident about Lord Ram. Okay? So then, of course, then later on the story goes ahead, and so then later on, Ram understands that the deer is Marich, but before Marich dies, what does he do? He takes the voice of Lord Ram and he calls out for Sita and Lakshman. So when Sita hears this, she becomes really stressed. She starts worrying. And she says that Lakshman, you must go and save Lord Ram. But Lakshman says, no, I'm very confident. I don't have to go. Lord Ram told me that I should protect you. I'm going to stay and protect you. She says, you must go. And at that time, she says something that causes immense amount of stress to Lord Ram. What does she say? She says that I know why you don't want to go, because you always wanted an opportunity where you could enjoy with me, and now you're not going to go. Now just imagine Lakshman hasn't slept for 13 years. He's been serving Lord Ram and Sita for 13 years selflessly, right? This moment happens where his character is questioned. His character is questioned by someone who he respects so much that he would never even look above her leg. You know, like this is a huge stressful situation. His character is questioned. What does he do? He still goes. He draws the Lakshman Rekha and then he goes. He meets Lord Ram. Lord Ram chastises him. I told you to take care of Mother Sita. And now his competence is being questioned. So on one hand, his character was questioned. On the other hand, his competence is questioned. Just imagine the stress of Lakshman. And it is said by our acharyas that it's not that Lakshman was a very peaceful person. He was a very angry person. He would always react, immediately react, right? So how did Lakshman tolerate this? It's such a stressful situation, right? Both the people whom he loves and adores and he respects and worships are chastising him for his character and competence. What did he do? He did not react. He did not react. Why? Because of the one thought in his head. And what was that one thought? He thought that they have deposited so much in me, so much love in me. This is just one withdrawal. Just one withdrawal. For this one withdrawal, I'm not going to react. And I keep thinking about this particular situation. If I was in that position, I would have just walked away. My wife is waiting for me, I'm just going to go away. You both are questioning my character, my competence, I'm just going to go away. But he did not do that. He did not react, but he responded very peacefully and he accepted all his faults. Right? So that is how we should, so that's, I just want to stop here. And thank you very much for your patience. And so we can take questions, one question maybe, and then we can have kirtan and then the food will be ready. Is that okay? One question? No. Anybody? Anything? If there's no questions, then at least some reflection, something that you take home today. That can also help so that we can all summarize the... Vishal, what's your...
I think I was conflicted by the part where you said that I'm comparing, that I'm trying to be like another person, but I feel I am trying to be a particular version of myself. So when COVID struck, there was work from home hadn't started yet, and then there was no strict plan on what was supposed to be done. So I had 24 hours for myself. So and there was no obligations which had to be done. So I picked up a lot of things which I wanted to do, and I was doing all of them. And because there was no stress on what I was supposed to accomplish, I actually did a lot of. I picked up picked up exercise in the morning, and then I'd go skipping. I'd stand outside my house and I'd skip and come back. And then I picked up meditation, and then I was studying by myself. And then now I am comparing myself to that particular situation, that particular person version which I was, and I understand that the consequences, not consequences, what is it called? The environment was different,
Yes.
but I still want to be that person.
Yes.
So I think what I understood was that I should even consider previous versions of myself as different people, because I am not in the same situation.
Yes.
And so even that comparison would be bad.
No, that's not bad. See, comparing yourself to yourself is not bad. See, comparison with others is bad, but comparing yourself to how you were before and how you are now, and becoming a better version of yourself, to become a better version of yourself, you have to see how you were in the past. So that is not bad. So please don't misunderstand that part.
But I find that very stressful because, as in, I have lesser energy than I did 5 years ago.
Okay.
So, and then there are other obligations which I have to fulfill while I want to do these things.
Okay. So let me change it a little bit. So now, is there anything that you are doing now which is better than that previous version of yourself? Or, of course, there are certain things like maybe you don't have time for exercise, maybe you don't have time for meditation, whatever. But is there anything that you're doing now which is a better version of that? If not, then maybe you should start incorporating some of those things that helped you, like meditation and exercise and things like that. You start incorporating and do it steadily. These are things that you have to think, journal, understand. But from what I have understood, comparing yourself from the past is not a bad thing. Anyone else? Any other answers? Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that the disposition sometimes is determined by karma. Can you please explain?
Did I say disposition is determined by karma? Okay. So your nature, your thing is coming from past life. Yeah, coming from karma. Okay. You want me to explain that?
Yeah.
So basically, we are on a multi-life journey. Okay, we are on a multi-life journey, and then certain things that happen to us is because of our previous life. So even when we are born as children, there are certain things that we are scared of. Where is it coming from? Like I know kids who are just scared of certain things. Like some kids are scared of water. Where is that phobia coming from? It's coming from a previous life. That is the only way you can explain it. That is the only way you can explain it. Otherwise, other explanation is everything happens by chance. But that will not satisfy you because there has to be a cause and effect. There has to be a cause for everything else. So cause and effect is there in everything in this world. So if there is a cause and effect, and if there has to be justice, then the only way to explain it is through past life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anything else?
I guess the last example that you mentioned of Ram, Sita and Lakshman. Lakshman is of course the example of don't react but respond.
Yes.
But I guess Sita is the other extreme of example where she reacted. First of all, she reacted when Marich imitated Ram's voice.
Yes.
And then the second time she reacted when Lakshman said, "No, I'll not go because I'm confident at Ram." So that time she reacted by questioning his character.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, of course, on the one perspective.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. And also, one thing that I just want to add here, which is my favorite in the whole thing, is that very soon after this, there's Jatayu who comes, right? And what is interesting is, both Marich and Jatayu both died on the lap of Lord Ram. Both died on the lap of Sri Ram. But one died serving Ravan, and one died serving Lord Ram. So interestingly, even though Marich died serving Ravan, Ravan didn't do anything for him. He didn't come cremate his body, nothing. But Ram, when Jatayu died, he cremated him just like his own father. So it is interesting that if there's one thing that we can do, we can also cultivate this habit of serving the divine. Just develop that mood over time. And then we will see that towards the end of our life, we may not be able to see it because there's so many obstacles, so many things in front of us. But at the moment of death, if we can die thinking that I've led this life in a mood of service, serving the divine, then you will get something amazing that you can't even imagine. So, anything else? Yes, Nisha.
sorry if I'm
Yeah, please.
expanding a bit on what you said.
Yeah.
I don't think either Marich or Jatayu would have lost their lives if Sita didn't give in to the temptation of having that deer.
Yes.
And I sometimes find that temptation is also a bit of a cause for stress, in my case at
Yes.
least.
Yes. It's very true, very true. In Bhagavad Gita also it's mentioned. It all starts with one thought, one temptation, one desire, and that can take you down the rabbit hole. It can really cause a lot of problems. And what is interesting is, if the desire is satisfied, you get greedy. If it is not satisfied, you get angry. Right? So it's just a loop. So it all starts with a thought, and that thought can pull you down, like how we give the example of a brick, or it can pull you up also if the thought's towards the divine. Any final reflections, thoughts, criticism? Anything that did not resonate with you? Anything that
I guess you should come up with a WWW that can, by which you can overcome worry. Something maybe like wisdom.
wisdom. Wow, that's a good one. Yeah, I never thought of it. Worship. Yes, beautiful. So thank you all so much. We'll end with 5-minute kirtan by.
Please let's thank Professor for the wonderful. I've been talking to him throughout the week. He's prepared a lot for this. He's this is like the essence of. Raja who led us in the Kirtan. So,
So we can all sit in circles now, maybe 2 or 3 circles, and then we serve out in like a couple of minutes. You can just sit wherever you want, however you want, just be comfortable.